You ever notice something strange about people these days? Everybody wants a righteous marriage, but almost nobody wants to be a righteous person. Everybody wants a righteous spouse who fears Allah, but they themselves barely fear Him at all. Everybody wants trust, loyalty, prayer, modesty, mercy, and peace, but they offer none of it, not a drop. Brother, sister, we're living in a world where folks treat marriage like a phone contract. Use it till the battery dies, then blame the device instead of the hands that drained it. And when the marriage starts cracking, the first thing they reach for ain't a mirror, it's a finger. A loaded finger pointed straight at their spouse. My husband ain't praying. My wife ain't covering. He's cold. She's disrespectful. He doesn't lead. She don't listen. But let me tell you the truth, you ain't going to hear on Fresh and Fit, and you ain't going to hear in therapy. And you definitely ain't going to hear on TikTok. A marriage doesn't collapse because two people change. It collapses because one of them stopped fearing Allah and the other one followed. And that's exactly why when people call me for advice, before I even ask about their spouse, I hit them with this question that shuts down a man or a woman mid-sentence. What are you doing or not doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because a lot of folks want a Jannah spouse while living a Jahannam lifestyle. They want a praying husband while they're praying only when life gets scary. They want a modest wife while they're drowning in haram DMs. They want loyalty while their eyes wander every time temptation walks by. Everybody's busy diagnosing their partner. Nobody diagnoses themselves. And you know what's wild? Most people ain't lying to me. They're lying to themselves. They say things like, I just want my husband to be better. I just want my wife to be religious. But what they really mean is, I want them to change so I don't have to. We live in a generation that wants improvement without sacrifice, guidance without discipline, barakah without repentance. People want a spouse who's patient while they themselves throw tantrums. They want a spouse who's understanding while they slam doors and go silent. They want a spouse who controls their anger while they treat anger like a birthright. Brother, sister, don't tell me you want a righteous marriage when you ain't willing to put a single coin of righteousness into the same jar. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't change the condition of a home until the people inside that home change themselves. You see, this ain't happening in a vacuum. This is the West's influence soaking into Muslim homes like rot in the beams of an old barn. You got men who think masculinity means dominance without responsibility. Men who confuse arrogance for leadership. Men who call themselves alpha while they can't even wake up for Fajr. Men who follow Myron Gaines, a man who claims Islam with his tongue but spreads red pill poison his whole life. A man who teaches men to treat women like they're disposable. A man who preaches hardness but has no taqwa. A man more loyal to Andrew Tate's philosophy than to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muslim men, you're drinking from that well like it's clean water. You're letting these red pill gurus reshape your heart more than the Quran ever did. And then you wonder why your wife don't want to follow you. But sister, don't get too comfortable. Your influencers ain't angels either. You got women soaking up Esther Perel, one of the biggest feminist intimacy gurus in the world, the woman who tells you that your desires, individuality, and freedom matter more than your vows you made before Allah. You got girls worshiping the gospel of self-love, self-care, self-obsession. All of it wrapped in pastel colors and gentle quotes that sound sweet but rot your marriage from the inside out. You got OnlyFans culture teaching women that attention is currency and modesty is oppression. You got therapy culture telling women that if he doesn't make you happy, leave. You got feminism telling women their husbands are optional, their marriage is a liability, and their happiness is God. So you tell me, how's a Muslim marriage supposed to survive when both spouses are drinking from a poisoned well? And it ain't just the influencers poisoning marriages. It's the friends, it's the cousins, it's the co-workers, it's the online sisters chats and the brothers circles where everybody speaks confidentially and nobody speaks with knowledge. You got men taking marriage advice from dudes who can't keep a goldfish alive, let alone a family. Men who treat cheating like a hobby and respect like it's optional. And you got women taking advice from girls who proudly announce that they don't need no man, yet cry themselves to sleep every night because they can't hold a relationship for more than 3 weeks. Some of y'all's marriages ain't failing because of you or your spouse. They're failing because you let the wrong people speak into your home. Your house can't stand if every door and window is open to voices that hate the idea of marriage to begin with. Now let's flip this whole thing back to the deen. Islam don't say fix your spouse. Islam says fix yourself, fear Allah, fulfill your obligations, and let's talk directly. Husbands, listen to me. You want your wife to respect you? Start praying 5 times a day like a man and stop calling yourself a leader when you ain't leading your own soul. You want her to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Show her what obedience looks like. You want her modest? Lower your own gaze first. You want peace in your home? Stop being the source of the chaos. A man who fears Allah becomes easy to love. A man who fears his ego becomes impossible to live with. And brother, you don't earn kiwama with muscles or money. You earn it with taqwa. You earn it with consistency. You earn it when Allah sees you waking up in the dark to beg for His mercy. A wife can't follow a man who can't follow Allah. And brother, listen close. Your wife ain't looking for perfection. She's looking for direction. Women will walk through storms and cross deserts if they trust the man that's leading them. But she can't trust a map that you don't follow yourself. She can't respect a standard you only apply to her. She can't be gentle when your heart is hard as stone. You want her to soften? Soften with your Lord first. Because when a man bows to Allah in private, Allah raises him in the eyes of his family in public. Wives, now listen to me. You want a loving husband? Be a woman he feels safe coming home to. Not a woman competing with strangers online for validation, attention, or ego boosts. You want him faithful? Guard your modesty in public and online. You want him to treat you gently? Stop humiliating him with disrespect and comparison. You want him to lead? Stop fighting him for the steering wheel while begging Allah for a man who knows where he's going. A man can't be a husband to a wife who wants to be a rival. Obedience ain't slavery. It's partnership through trust. It's believing that Allah gave him a role and gave you a role and gave your marriage structure. And sister, modesty ain't optional. Hijab ain't a personality accessory. It's a command. It's a shield for your marriage. It's a line that tells the world I belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I belong to my home, not your gaze. And sister, let me tell you something real. Your beauty was never meant for public consumption. It was meant to be honored, protected, and reserved for the man Allah wrote for you. Don't trade your dignity for likes from strangers who would forget your name the moment you delete your account. Don't let a world built on lust convince you that modesty is oppression. Wallahi, modesty is power. It's the kind of power no algorithm can imitate and no man with a dead heart can understand. When you obey Allah, Allah beautifies you in ways the dunya could never imitate. But then there's another group, and they terrify me the most. Couples who look fine on the outside, but inside the house, they're 2 bodies living under one roof with 2 separate hearts beating in 2 worlds. No arguments, no screaming, no cheating, just nothing. Silence, distance, dead air. A marriage on life support with nobody calling the doctor. They eat together without speaking. They raise kids without touching. They sleep in the same bed, but the cold between them could freeze a river. These couples don't need divorce advice. They need resurrection. I've talked to couples who ain't said a word to each other in years. Not because they hate each other, but because neither one wants to be vulnerable first. You know how many marriages died because somebody was too stubborn to say, I'm sorry, or too scared to say, I miss how we used to be, or too prideful to say, I need you? Some of y'all ain't married anymore. You're just roommates, sharing bills, sharing kids, and sharing oxygen, but not sharing hearts. And if you don't wake up, your kids are going to grow up thinking this cold, distant version of marriage is normal. And the only thing that can resurrect a dead marriage is both spouses walking back toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the same time. You want to reconnect? Pray together, cry together, talk honestly without blaming, admit your part in the destruction. Close the door to strangers and screens. Rebuild trust with action, not promises. Meet in the middle, not halfway to your ego, but halfway to Allah. A marriage don't die overnight. It dies slowly from neglect, from silence, from unspoken hurt, from sin that stays unrepented. Let me paint it for you Southern style, the way the life taught me. A marriage is like an old barn in Tennessee. It don't matter how tall the beams are, how pretty the paint is, how wide the doors swing open. If the foundation rots, the whole thing collapses the moment the storm rolls in. And storms will come. Allah promised they would. But a home built on taqwa don't break. It bends, it shakes, it cries, but it don't fall. A home built on ego don't survive a gentle breeze. Brother, sister, Shaitan wants your marriage more than he wants anything else. He don't celebrate drugs, he don't celebrate murder, and he don't celebrate theft. But when he breaks a marriage, when he turns a husband against wife, wife against husband, he stands up to applaud himself because he just destroyed a whole nation. Don't hand him your home. Don't unlock the door for him with your sins. Don't give him free rent with your stubbornness. Don't build your marriage on Western lies and wonder why the roof caves in. And storms don't warn you before they hit. Sometimes the storm comes in the form of a job loss. Sometimes in the form of sickness or depression, miscarriage, financial strain, or a mother-in-law who can't hold her tongue. And in those moments, you either stand shoulder to shoulder as believers or you break apart as enemies. It ain't the storm that destroys a marriage, it's the cracks that were already there that nobody wanted to fix. You want to start healing? Start with this. Fix your salah. Pray together. Cut off opposite sex friendships. No exceptions. Delete the private DMs. Guard your tongues. Guard your eyes. Guard your clothes. Stop threatening divorce. Stop listening to influencers and friends who hate marriage. Stop using your spouse's sins to excuse your own. Start fearing Allah more than you fear being wrong. And for the love of Allah, stop letting the days slip by without watering the roots of your marriage. Make dua for each other. Read Quran in the same room. Even if you ain't reading the same page, sit down once a week and ask each other, what do you need from me? What can I do better? What sunnah should we revive together? Homes don't crumble overnight. They crumble because people stop investing, stop caring, stop checking on the condition of the heart. Marriage is a garden. If you don't water it daily, weeds are going to take over the whole yard. Do this. Really do it. And watch Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathe life back into your home. Let me leave you with this. If you refuse to change, if you cling to your ego and insist your spouse has got to change first, if you treat the Quran like a decoration instead of a manual, then don't be surprised when Allah removes blessing from your marriage. But if you fix yourself, humble yourself, take the first step towards Allah, even if your spouse ain't ready, then the most merciful will take 10 steps towards you. He's going to protect your home. He's going to soften your hearts. And he'll turn bitterness into sweetness, distance into closeness, coldness into warmth, and silence into peace. Because marriage don't live on romance, it lives on righteousness. And the moment you fix yourself, Allah will fix everything around you, including your marriage. Because Allah is Al-Jabbar, the one who mends the broken. He can take two people who are hanging by a thread and tie their hearts back together stronger than they ever were. He can take a marriage that looks finished and breathe life into it the way He brings rain to the dead land. And wallahi, you ain't too far gone, your spouse ain't too far gone, your home ain't too far gone. If you walk toward Him, He will rebuild everything you lost in ways you never imagined. Brother and sister, don't wait. Your home depends on it. And that's all I've got to say about it.